That's how
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
I want to welcome you all to Professional Connections. I'm excited for today, as we're still exploring our professional connections, what it's like to do what we do other than our normal. And the last time we did a 3-panel or a 3-person presentation, we had so much fun that we had some people jump up right away and volunteer they want to do it again. So we have that opportunity today to do that. And I'm glad that you're here to be a part of that and network. And a little bit about our first, one I got here for our speaker is Ann. She's a professional experience. Healthcare includes working with head injuries, adolescents, adult mental health, end of life. She also assists in living, memory care, skilled nursing, fitness, dance, and marketing. And I've had some of her dancing practice. She came to my friend's house and taught a whole bunch of us how to do a dance together for another form of exercise and activity. I don't know if I classify if I'm in that mental or that mature age, but I'm close that you work with sometimes. Because I know you use that for a tool in helping those who need it, or other, explain. But we had a blast, so it's a fun part. Ann was born and raised in the Midwest, in New Jersey and Florida, where she received her degree in human resources and a master's degree in genealogy. 4 years ago, her and her husband fulfilled a dream and became Washingtonians. Our next speaker is Amanda. She's experienced in helping older adults and their families with senior housing and care options available. Previously worked in supported living for disabled adults as a recruiter and hiring manager. She grew up in Bellevue, Seattle area, working for Macy's, giving her the opportunity to grow in many areas in her life, in a professional career. Mother of 3 girls, 2 attending Wazoo or Washington State University. The third one's a freshman here at Columbia River High School. Married to David for 24+ years.
Wow.
Oh, and she also has a dog that's the center of everybody's attention in the house.
I should have Cooper's picture.
Bill, caregiver support group and leader and speaker, Alzheimer's Association volunteer and caregiving consultant and certified.
Certified senior advisor.
There we go. It just recently happened.
Yes.
Awesome, congrats. Provides advice on how to manage loved one's needs, which is many that you don't even know about until you get there, right, Bill?
Correct. 3 cases.
Helps families find ways to take care and inform themselves. Talks about self-care, prevention with healthy choices. He has first-hand experience by helping his mom, and Bill is a guide for family caregivers. Bill helps families cope with dementia care by coordinating all their support, married to his wife for 39 years. Please help me welcome Bill, Amanda, and Ann.
So official.
Was that for what's my line? or to tell the truth?
Yeah, it does. It tells us.
Before your
Well, you
time.
didn't know I had a script already for you. I was going to ask you all 3 questions.
That may be before a few people's time.
It was before my time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I know the video's rolling. Okay. So, again, I'm Amanda McCallum with First Choice Advisory, and I'm just going to start this off briefly with my history with my mother, who has passed from Alzheimer's, and what not to do, because it was 6 years ago that she passed, and at the start of her journey, we didn't know she had Alzheimer's, and when she had a major surgery, being under the anesthetic for 7 hours, really brought the Alzheimer's, fast-forwarded it. So she went from a 17-day hospital stay to rehab, didn't even know what rehab was, and she went there, and then she came home, barely functioning, and then she had to go to memory care. But in between that, there was the, oh my gosh, what is Sundowners? My mom's trying to run away. We couldn't care for her. She couldn't do anything well at home. So had I met Bill, I could have been educated. Or had I met Ann, she could have stayed at home longer. Or had I met myself and Christina, she could have been in the best care facility ever. But my dad was in panic mode, which we see a lot. And he wrote a lot of checks to take care of my mom. So we work well together. And now it's Bill's turn to really we start. That's just a brief introduction.
So I'm going to stand up because the crowd here, thank you for coming, everybody. Some very familiar faces, thank you. So again, as Dan nicely mentioned, I was my late mother's caregiver. I'll make a long story short because many of you have already heard the story, but if you told me 15 years ago that my mother would show signs of dementia, she would lose her home in Katrina in Biloxi, Mississippi, and she would be on the East Coast with a couple other family members for a couple of years before I moved her out here and moved her into a care community in Raleigh Hills, and I was working full-time in Salem while living in Tualatin, and I was going to go to a support group. Skipping forward, after she was here for about 5 years, passed away 6.5 years ago at age 83. And then after I retired from the state, that I'd be standing here and talking to you all as a caregiving support consultant, I would tell you you're crazy, you couldn't make up that story. So she talked about mistakes or not knowing things or not knowing. I mean, most of you know the Retirement Connection books, right? Or think about 15 years ago, there wasn't much of an internet yet. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know who to talk to when my mom was showing those first signs of dementia and confusion, not taking care of the finances, not taking care of the house. It was basically like your fingers through the walking, right? Dialing. It's pretty much how it was back then. So I tried to be that navigator, that coach, that guide, fill in. I needed somebody like me back then, like she was alluding to. And what we do is we take different parts of the journey. I mean, I tend to be a navigator and help along the whole journey. But like one of the first questions I'm going to ask people is, do you have an elder law attorney? Do you have durable power of attorney? Do you have an advanced director? Do you have the pulse? Do you have the wills? Because if you don't, that's job one. It's going to get much more expensive and much more complicated if you wait too long, right? Because you might have to go into guardianship or conservatorship. Any elder law attorneys here? I don't think so, right? No. But most of you have probably dealt with one at some point or have heard of what they do. They specialize in this area. I always advise work with an elder law attorney in this case. So I would tell them that's job one, you need to take care of that. Then we're going to start looking at, if you're seeing those first signs like I saw, it could be, think about this one year with the holidays already started. Family members you haven't seen all year perhaps. Suddenly mom's recipe doesn't taste the same. She's leaving out ingredients. Or she walks into the room and doesn't know why she came in there. Or dad is repeating questions. Or his car has scratches suddenly that weren't there before. Or dents, or worse. Or you're driving with him, people are honking at him. Those are some signs that people need to be looking at because they're suddenly realizing something's different, something's going on here. You may not know what. That's the position we were in. So that's where we can help take some of that burden off you, reduce your stress, save you time, save you money. Most people, when it comes to the housing, are going to be going into directories or looking, online, or using a national online company, which they should not use. I won't say their name here, place your mom. Because people like them know the resources like I do. They know where to turn. They know how to save you the money and the time and the stress. If you haven't, it's just too hard to do by yourself, including going back to the legal, like Medicaid. Don't try to do it yourself. If you hear about somebody, we're trying to fight to get our parents on Medicaid and we're not getting anywhere, it's just taking months and weeks, talk to an elder law attorney. If you're looking for a house or a housing or a care home, talk to an adult placement specialist. If you're looking at, we can't handle it ourselves anymore. It's just too much of a burden. Is it going to get any easier? No. Right now it's as easy as it's going to get. It's just going to get harder. And that's where the other people in their profession can help take that stress off. So I'm going to stop talking already. And if anybody has any questions of me, or I can wait until afterwards. But again, just real quickly, I coordinate with professionals like this. And we know where the resources are. We know who We've vetted them, we've researched them, we know where to turn and help you. That's pretty much it.
All right, I'm Phillips, and I'm with the home care agency CLT at Home, which is owned by the wonderful Connie Thompson. She's back here. And there she is. So what I would like to do is kind of give you the nuts and bolts of how we go about this. So when Bill contacts me to say there's a family member of some folks and they're having a lot of struggles, doing things at home, they could use your help. Then what I do is first I find out from them some things like what their needs are going to be, trying to determine what kind of our services are going to be most helpful for them. So initially it's usually over the phone that we start the conversation, and then I go out and meet with them in order to kind of get a feel for what the situation is. It helps to go to someone's home if we're looking at home care, because you can, like Bill was talking about, notice some of those things that may indicate a need for certain kinds of help. Like he gave some really good examples. Another one would be if someone has burn marks on their pot holders. Well, maybe they're not doing such a great job with their cooking anymore. So then that brings me to some of the services that we do as far as home care. We have caregivers who go into people's homes. And in that situation, they may need some help grocery shopping, picking up groceries that maybe a family member already ordered, preparing meals, putting them in the freezer, some of them for later, getting them set up to eat right then and there, sitting with them because maybe they're going to eat better when someone is right there rather than all by themselves. So just that one service of helping somebody with meals might take on a number of different looks. That, along with a number of other services, are considered companion care. So they're helping with things like laundry, transportation, housekeeping, maybe changing the litter box, things along those lines that are not hands-on assistance with someone, but are necessary in order for someone to stay in their home longer and be safe. So those are companion services. That's one aspect of what we do. We also can do more personal care, and that would be more like helping someone with bathing, dressing, grooming, moving from, say, a wheelchair to bed, back and forth, and those kinds of things. So that's more hands-on and considered personal care. Everybody's different, so their needs are going to be different, which is what we're trying to determine when we first meet with someone. We're getting a sense from you, if you're the family member or the person who's receiving the care, how much help they need, how often, and what kind of caregiver they are looking for. They want someone a little more talkative, a little less, a little, you know, that varies. Someone who they feel is strong, who can help them, you know, real outgoing and is going to be real interested in a lot of their stories and some of their hobbies and things like that. So we're also trying to figure that out. So then, when we've determined what their needs are, what they're going to be doing, how many hours, that sort of thing, and what caregiver, then I would contact Connie and say, this is the situation, these are the hours, this is what they're looking for in their caregiver, and then she looks at the schedule, etc., and we brainstorm and figure out, okay, we're going to start with so-and-so on this day, that's what we're going to do. So I go with them to meet, introduce them, and to help them to get to know each other and make sure things go smoothly and all the things that they had identified needing, that gets conveyed to the caregiver and that there is no uncertainty about what they're expected to do, how to go about things, you know, what the medical situation is and that sort of stuff. Checking my time. Good. So we want it to go smoothly, so we go in and help that to occur. And then the next day or two, I'll contact the recipient or the family, find out how they felt it went. Are they comfortable with that caregiver? Have they thought of anything else maybe that they want, or maybe they don't need as much help here, but they need a little bit more there, that kind of thing. And then we contact the caregiver, see if that person was comfortable in that setting as well. And if so, everything's good to go, you know, we roll from there. So the idea really for home care is to have some help with just things that an individual needs in order to stay at home longer, if that is their wish, and to be safe and as independent as possible. So then, if it comes to a point where someone needs a lot of help and they really need to have maybe nurses there around the clock or something like that, or they might have some memory issues and they're starting to head out the door and it's not safe, in those situations, then that's when we would contact Amanda and she would look at a place for them. So I will send it your way next.
Thank you, Ann. So I'm lucky today because my coworker Christina is here. She doesn't get to attend as often because she's out there helping families. So do you want a minute to say hello?
Sure, hello.
Hi.
Thank you for coming to my party.
And this is what I get to work with every day. It's fun.
Ask for it.
Yes.
Actually, we do have a lot of fun together because we love our jobs, but it is really important to help people. It's very serious. So my mom's situation was not very fun. I knew nothing. I came from a long 25 years with Macy. 20, 25, don't remember. Long time. So this was not in my background, but it all kind of came together after my mom passed. So it's meant to be, and it can be so much better. And I think you said 10 times, elder law attorney, really truthful. Yes, it's super important. They can protect money, they can guide you, and it can be a great resource. And Ann's company could have helped as well. But what we look like, there's a piece of paper at the end if you want to pass those down. If we run out, I have a couple of extras. But this is a very nice guide. This was our poster for the year. We're developing a new one for 2020, but this is on the myths and truths because a lot of you may not know what an adult family home looks like, assisted living versus independent living, and all the options that are out there for you. So to try and simplify it, I'm going to give 3 examples with Christine's help because sometimes it can be perfect. A placement can be just like clockwork. And as a matter of fact, First Choice works 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We're not sitting at a desk that time, but we always have our phones with us, so we can take care, we can respond quickly. I've been in the car with Christina. She solved something in less than 5 minutes before. I won't forget that. Now, I might have helped her a little bit, but anyways, we can definitely work quickly because we're very well versed in Vancouver. But on Saturday, Christina, would you like to explain your light clockwork placement?
Sure, so like clockwork, this
Yes.
doesn't happen frequently, but it's a wonderful one when it does happen this way. I had a daughter contact me a couple weeks ago and said that she lives up in the Issaquah area. Dad needs more care in Woodland area, looking at an adult family home. Talked about what was going on, what are the concerns, what's happening with him, why are we looking at adult family home and not independent living or assisted living, and kind of sort through those things, have that conversation. She was going to be down on this last Saturday, so I set up tours for 4 different adult family homes in the areas that she was looking for, out in the rural area, lots of different requirements. So for me, it's a big puzzle. So I get this laundry list of this is what needs to happen, and then I go to work and start making phone calls, looking at this situation was that the dad was in his early 70s. So really, that's a challenge in an adult family home because a lot of times people are much older. So if you have somebody that's younger and wants to chit-chat and have some kind of communication with people, that might not be a good match. So part of my role is that. Do you have an opening? Here's what I'm looking for, my shopping list. Who do you have? What kind of individuals are there, because that changes over time. Set up the tours. We went on Saturday, took Dad with us, and sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes the older adult's not able to participate, so I love it when they're included as well. We go to all the different spots, check in, how'd it go, and late Saturday afternoon we had another talk. He made a decision. What do we do next? I'm like, find out when you can move in, you know, so all along the way behind the scenes that I'm helping support, giving information, talking about what needs to be looked at, what about this, how about moving companies, what's your plan, when are you going back, you know, what's your timeline, what's your money situation, helping them, and then just kind of just happened. So it was a clockwork, like, start here, we need to do a nursing assessment regardless of where your dad's gonna go, let's start with that so we have an idea of what we share with the provider. And that was beautiful. Did the assessment, then I could share it with the 4 people that we were gonna go visit so they could look at it ahead of time. We had meaningful conversations about what it needed to look like, what kind of care he needed, and then there you have it. So that's a clockwork.
That's clockwork. So on the bottom of the sheet here, it says adult care home. So in Washington State, there can be 6 residents in a home. There's conversation out there about raising that number, and that's what an adult family home looks like. In the Vancouver area, there's over 400, but we have chosen not to be familiar with every one of those, but we definitely know of some really strong ones, and we've always got our pulse on them. When they have an opening, we're like, oh good, that one's open. So we're always communicating what's out there and available, because adult family homes, oh wow. Anyways, on to the next one. So then sometimes you get this random phone call, so random that good ears are very helpful. So ring ring, here gets the phone call. Christina.
I don't know if you can help me with this, but I live in an apartment in Washougal and I don't sleep well at night because it's loud. So I'm just looking for a place to sleep at night but still stay here. What? So we continue to have a little bit more conversation, and I find out she's lonely. She doesn't have any family in the area. Likely she could afford something, but I'm not really clear what it is, because over the phone that's a hard conversation, like, tell me about your money. And so I said, well, what if we could find a place where you could live that had 3 meals a day, had lots of activities socially that you could participate, or you could, or not, wanting to, whatever you want. What about that? Oh, that would be amazing. So it's something that she had never even thought about. She just needed to sleep. So called up my buddy at Columbia Ridge and said, I don't know, this is, we're gonna do discovery together, and we're gonna see if we can make something happen for this lady. So he offered, you know what, come try us out, stay in our respite for a couple nights, try it. And she just was like, that's weird, that's really, I wanna take advantage. I'm like, no, this guy is really being sincere. We're concerned about you needing to have some sleep, try it. She moved in last week. It was not something, when I took that call, I told Amanda, well, I'm gonna invest 2 hours of my time to meet this lady and see what's going on and see if there's anything I can do to help her. It will likely not result in a move-in, which is how we talk in our industry. I do have to get paid at some point. The way that we get paid is the communities that people choose. They pay my company a referral fee. So I pick and choose, you know, how I spend my time, but this one seemed like, you know, she needs somebody right now. So I showed up and it mattered, and she's doing really great.
Okay, now we're down to 1 minute, and there's also, this is the part where it's very frustrating in our world when we talk about money and finances, and you know, my mom needs care, she has no money, you know, this and that. So Christina did have one recently, and to clarify, we cannot work with Medicaid. We are prohibited by Washington state law because they're getting state money, so we can't get paid to do something for the state. Although, from the goodness of our hearts and the love of our job, we do get situations where we've got to help this person. So recently, Christina.
Right, so a couple months ago, I got a phone call from my daughter saying, here's what's going on with my dad. And as we talked about the money of it, I just said, you know what, you're going to need Medicaid. It is going to be a better plan for you to move forward with applying for Medicaid and finding out what the daily rate is, so that they decide how much should, you know, a provider receive for care for this individual. When you get that information, call me back, let me see what I can work out and do to help you connect. So, like Amanda said, legally we're not allowed to receive any monies for those kind of services, and it's not about that. Sometimes you just get your heart tugged. It's like, no, this is the right thing. So we stayed in touch for the last few months. She called me and said, okay, here's the rate. And I was like, it's low. Okay, let me see what I can do. So I made a bunch of phone calls. I had 2 providers write back and say, I'm interested, which was a miracle, because at that rate, it's not typical. It's the relationship.
Yeah, I was
that
just
I
going to
built.
say, but really it's because Christina had a great relationship with them, and I was very impressed. I'm like, wait, you got 2 people?
No, they're fighting over her now.
Yeah.
So this morning it is, okay, so family member, how's that going? What's happening? Because I've got both the providers saying, what'd she think? So it's those success stories. So again, the fact that I'm able to help this daughter and her be appreciative in her journey and not being so overwhelmed. When I answered that call and said, here's the truth of it, but I didn't say I can't help you, or I won't help you, or I don't get paid for this kind of thing, that kind of attitude does not ever part of our storyline. So we just want to be helpful where we can, and then you move along, and karma takes care of the rest of it. Yeah!
Thanks, Christina. So, this guide here that I've given you, please take it with you. It's a really, really good resource. If you don't need it, leave it, because it's obviously kind of expensive, but super helpful. Just understanding the dollar amounts here obviously are flexible, but they're not going to go less than this. It does cost money. So,
I'd like to make a real important point. You may be picking up on this. Even though there are some common threads with whether it's aging, seniors, but also Alzheimer's, dementia, and I'll paraphrase one other line that we talk usually about Alzheimer's. If you've seen one case of aging, you've only seen one case of aging. Every case, the situation, family dynamics, location, etc., it's always different. And that's why we're all going to do, like many of you do, is ask a lot of questions, do a lot of listening and assessing, and determine what are their real needs. And sometimes it does mean just providing some resources. Okay, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If you have greater needs, then come back and talk to me. And then I can say, okay, if you need this much, then I can say a couple of hours at my rate, and I'll take care of it. But, yeah, that's what we do.
Thanks. Is anybody, a couple minutes here, where ask a question or aha takeaway you have from these three?
plus one.
Sue.
So correct me if I have this right. So there's in-home care and there's in-home health care. Does one company do one or maybe do both, or?
It's really for you.
It's mine.
Yeah.
I'll
I
take
think
it.
we all could.
Yeah, I think we could too. So, in-home care is what I was talking about, which is like the companion services, the personal care services. It differs from home health care, which it sounds like what you're thinking of, Sue. And home health care is prescribed by a physician. It's short-term, generally therapies. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, that sort of thing. Individuals who go to someone's home or wherever they're living and help them to continue to rehabilitate in whatever area it is. Generally short-lived. Or it could be a nurse who goes out to help someone maybe take their diabetic injections, manage their medications, put them in, give them their pills, or take care of a wound or something. And again, that is generally time specific. That's not ongoing. Where home care is more of an ongoing service that does not need to be prescribed by a physician.
So does, again, one company
Oh,
do one and a different company do the other?
Sometimes, and there are some companies that do both.
Okay.
It varies. Yeah, we are just home care, CLT. Does that answer your question,
Yes,
Sue?
it does. Thank you.
One more.
Great.
Is there one more? Go ahead.
Well, I kind of have two questions. So what's the average percent, if you know, of people who need long-term care? Like I heard it's 1 in 2 people today are going to need it at some point in their lives.
That's a great question.
It is a good question.
1 in 2, that's 50%. That sounds quite high.
Yeah, okay.
If I had to guess a number, and help me, I'd say 20% of our aging population seeks out assisted living of some sort, like on this page. A lot of people do get to stay at home because of. So it is growing because they're getting better and better at it. But I think that 50% would be high. But I might research that.
Very small amount of people end up in what you think of a nursing home or a skilled nursing facility.
Okay.
Most people age at home,
Okay.
and then another percentage in assisted living, and then moving into memory care at some point. But it's a smaller percentage. The key will be that after the age of 85, increasing amount of people will need some kind of care. Yes. But I think that sounds pretty high.
Okay. So, and then for the 20% that do need long-term care, how long typically are they there for?
They are there. So when they join a community, a very small percentage leaves because they found someone there, they got married and moved out, or they're there for life. It is their last home.
Specifically, like how
4 or 5
long?
years?
That's,
Oh,
yeah.
Hard to forecast.
It is, but in general, for assisted living, it's just a couple of years
Yeah,
as an average.
yeah, a couple of years, and then they might go to memory care.
Yeah.
There's adult family homes, which, as Christina said, are usually on the older side. They can be there 8, 10 years. Care is really good in adult family homes, and they can. live
The
long
gentleman
time.
that selected a home this weekend, the reason he selected the house that he did was because there were guys his age, and then they were like being all buddy, like talking. It was super cute. It was so cute because, you know, need friendship, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
he had been living in that home for 10 years. So here's a man who was probably started in his 60s in an adult family home, which is really young, comparatively to the
Yeah.
100-year-olds that I also have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question.
Last
Where does
one,
what
for this
you-
moment.
Yeah, where does what you do versus what hospice does overlap?
Well, so hospice is, to be on hospice services, you're expected to have about 6 months or less of your life remaining. And that's the biggest thing as far as criteria for it. Hospice then does things like, they provide medical equipment like oxygen or hospital bed, that sort of thing, and that people may need. They also have like a social worker to help the individual and the family members deal with the grief and the loss, that sort of thing. Nurses who will do kind of the home health, like I was answering Sue. Yeah, and then that like bath aide type person who will do some of that. So when hospice is involved, sometimes you may still have home care, more for day-to-day ongoing type things. But hospice is fairly specific as far as what they do. And there are a number of different hospices available. People can choose whichever one they want if somebody is going into hospice.
And
Does
I'm
that
just
answer
gonna
your
add a little
Stan?
bit on there. So you
Yeah.
can be in an adult family home, and very typically they roll over to hospice care because all of a sudden now it is truly end of life. The nurse has said there's this much time. Then that care staff steps back, lets the hospice come in. Could be like Peace Health. They have the social worker, the nurse. They take care of everything. That can occur at a home, and it can occur at a community as well.
And then very briefly, to differentiate from palliative, which may or may not be end of life, but they have a chronic condition that can no longer be cured, but the idea is to mitigate the pain and the suffering as much as possible, keep them comfortable for whatever time, but not necessarily end of life.
I'm gonna take one of your forms. I've never had one living center, and then I give this as a gift.
What is it?
Oh, I get the whole packet. Oh, sweet.
Thank you all for having us.
Thank you.
Well, we're just
I have my own chair.
Yeah, you can sit there. Wow, wow, wow. I